I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating on him, especially not in such a cold, calculated way. My name's Dave, and for the past few months things have been different. My wife, Lisa, is a real piece of work, bitchy, controlling, and often dismissive. We'd been together for almost 10 years, married for 5, and honestly, I thought we had a decent thing going. She'd always been a bit high maintenance, but I figured that was just her personality. Still, I never suspected she'd be capable of cheating, until the home office period hit and everything changed. When COVID hit, like everyone else, we shifted to working from home. At first, it seemed like a blessing. No more commuting, more time with Lisa, and a chance to finally enjoy some peace. But I quickly picked up on little things. She'd be more irritable than usual, snapping at me for no reason or disappearing into the bedroom for hours, claiming she was on calls or working late. The weirdest part, her activity monitor on her laptop, which she insisted was just for work, kept logging sessions at odd hours, sessions that weren't in her schedule and that I definitely didn't authorize. I thought maybe she was just being sneaky or hiding something, but I didn't have proof until I decided to dig. One night, after a long day of trying to focus on my own work, I decided to take a peek into her activity monitoring software. Nothing malicious, just curiosity, I told myself. I mean, I'd always been suspicious that she was hiding something. As I scrolled through her recent sessions, I noticed a string of collaborative meetings I didn't recognize. They were happening at odd hours, sometimes late at night, sometimes during what should have been her breaks. The thing is, I know her schedule better than she thinks I do, and this wasn't it. But that wasn't the worst part. What really caught my attention was a series of chat logs linked to these sessions. At first, I thought maybe it was just work-related, but then I saw her referring to Mike, and the language she used was gross. She kept talking about sex, about how hot Mike was and how she wanted to do things with him. The chats weren't just professional, they were downright filthy. My stomach dropped. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. There was no denying it now. Lisa was cheating on me, and she'd been doing it behind my back for weeks, maybe longer. I couldn't believe she'd be so blatant about it, especially during a time when she's supposed to be working. How do you even process something like that? The woman I married, the person I trusted most in the world, was lying and screwing around with some guy while I was at home, trying to keep everything together. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and just pure sadness. I sat there staring at her screen for what felt like hours, trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her right then, but I knew I needed to gather my thoughts, plan my move carefully. Still, the damage was done. I knew she was lying to my face every day, and now I had proof that she was cheating on me with someone I didn't even know. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I kept replaying everything I'd seen. What hurt the most was knowing how easily she lied and dismissed my concerns before. She's always been the kind of woman who's bitchy and dismissive. She's a master at making excuses, twisting everything to make herself look innocent. But this was something else entirely. I felt like I'd lost a part of my life, a part of my trust. I wondered how she could be so reckless, so cruel, and still look me in the eye. I started thinking about her lying about everything, her phone, her whereabouts, her work sessions, and I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to confront her. But I also knew that once I did, nothing would be the same again. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and the sense of betrayal was even worse in the bright daylight. I kept going over the chat logs in my mind, replaying everything I'd seen the night before. I knew I had to confront her, but I also wanted to prepare myself for whatever bullshit she'd come up with. Lisa is the queen of lies. She bends the truth, twists everything, and always makes herself out to be the victim. Still, I couldn't just ignore what I found. I had to face her, and I had to do it on my terms. I waited until she was in the kitchen, sipping her coffee with that bored, bitchy look she always has when she's trying to act like she's too busy or too important. I took a deep breath and sat across from her. No point in beating around the bush. I kept my voice steady, cold even, because I knew I couldn't trust myself to sound anything else. Lisa, I need to talk to you about something. It's important. She looked up, raising an eyebrow, her lips curling into that dismissive smirk. What now? I know about the sessions, the ones you've been doing when you're supposed to be working, and I know about Mike, the chats, the stuff you've been saying, everything. I saw her eyes flicker, that brief flash of guilt or maybe panic, and then she recovered quickly like she always does. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Are you serious? You've been spying on me. I kept my tone even. No, Lisa. I've seen what's going on. I know you're cheating on me. With Mike. How long has this been going on? She scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, please, Dave, you're overreacting. You think I'm cheating just because I had a few secret meetings. Maybe I needed someone to talk to, someone who actually listens. It's not what you think. I couldn't believe the lies pouring out of her mouth. She always talks like that, denies, deflects, tries to make me doubt my own eyes. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I pulled out my phone and showed her the chat logs I'd saved. Her face went pale for a second, then her eyes narrowed and she started to get defensive. You're crazy, she spat. You've just been looking for something to accuse me of. I work hard, Dave, unlike you, sitting there all day obsessing over my activity. I don't have time for your paranoia. She paused, then added, and Mike, seriously, I don't even know who that is. I shook my head. Don't lie to me, I know everything. You've been sneaking around, lying about your schedule and talking about sex with this guy. I saw the messages. You think I'm stupid. Her eyes flashed with anger now. You're just jealous, because I'm better looking. Then you're boring ass and smarter too. Maybe if you actually paid attention instead of spying, you'd know I'm not cheating. All you do is accuse me and make my life hell. I don't need this. That was her typical way, blame everyone else, turn it around, make herself the victim. But I knew better. I saw the truth in her chat logs and it burned. I felt a strange mix of rage and heartbreak. I had trusted her all these years, and now I was standing here listening to her lie through her teeth. I told her I didn't want to hear her excuses, that I'd had enough, and I needed some space to think. She huffed, rolled her eyes, and stormed out, leaving me sitting there numb and furious. That confrontation didn't clear anything up. If anything, it made things worse. I kept replaying her words, trying to figure out if she was lying or just in denial. But the thing that kept coming back was the fact that she'd been hiding something big, and now I knew about it. I looked around the house and felt like I didn't recognize my own life anymore. This wasn't just a fling, this was betrayal on a level I'd never expected from someone I thought I knew. I was angry at her, yes, but more than that, I was hurt. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I needed to decide what to do next, but I already knew everything had changed forever. After that morning, everything felt like a blur. I couldn't concentrate on work, couldn't sleep, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, defiant, lying, dismissive. The worst part was knowing she'd been doing this for weeks, maybe longer, while I was just blind and clueless. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see her slipping away from me. Was I really that blind, or was she just that good at hiding it? Honestly, I was furious, but a part of me still felt like I was drowning in sadness. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't sure what love even meant anymore. I decided I needed to get some actual proof, something concrete I could use, just in case I wanted to confront her again, or, better yet, use it. To make my decision, I began digging deeper into her activity logs, going through every session, every chat, every email. And what I found was worse than I expected. It wasn't just a casual affair. She'd been actively planning to meet up with Mike, talking about how hot she was, how she wanted to do things she'd never done before. She'd even sent him pictures, supposedly sexy, and I wondered how much she'd told him about us, about me. It all made me sick. I kept thinking about worst-case scenarios, imagining her sneaking out, lying about where she was. I thought about how she'd lied to everyone, her friends, her family, trying to hide what she was doing. I felt like I was living in some sick nightmare. How could she be so selfish, so cruel? I was starting to believe she was just using me, using this marriage as a cover, a shield from her own guilt, and now she was just throwing it all away for some guy she barely knew. I knew I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I needed to confront her again, but this time I had to be smarter. I knew she'd lie her way out of it, like she always did. So I decided to record her secretly whenever I could. I set up my phone with a voice recorder just in case she slipped up and said something that could confirm everything. I wanted irrefutable proof. I also talked to an attorney friend just to understand what my rights were if I did decide to separate or divorce. My head was spinning, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't stay in this mess. One evening she came home late again, smelling like perfume and regret, I guess. She was her usual bitchy self, snapping at me when I asked how her day was. I kept silent, watching her, trying to catch her in a lie. Then she sat down, looked me in the eyes, and said, "You know, Dave, I don't know what you want from me. If you're so suspicious, maybe you should just leave. I'm not cheating on you, I swear, you're just paranoid." That's when I lost it. I couldn't take her bullshit anymore. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and told her, "I have proof, Lisa. I've seen everything. The chats, the meetings, the plans you made with Mike, and I know you're lying right now, so don't even bother." Her face twisted into a sneer. "You're crazy, you're just jealous, I don't know what you're talking about." I felt my jaw tighten. I was done playing her game. "No, Lisa, you're the one who's been lying the whole time. You've been cheating on me with some guy, and I'm not going to let you ruin what's left of this marriage. If you want to keep lying, go ahead. But I have everything recorded now, and I'll be making some decisions soon." She stood up abruptly, her voice rising. "You're a pathetic, jealous husband. You think you're so smart, but you're just a damn fool. I don't need your lies and accusations. I'll do whatever I want." I watched her walk out of the room, feeling a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief because I finally had proof, and despair because I knew my life was about to change forever. I sat there, holding my phone, realizing that my once simple, stable world had shattered into pieces. The woman I loved, the woman I married, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. And now I had to decide what to do with this knowledge, how to pick up the pieces, and whether I even wanted to try. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing over everything I'd uncovered, every lie she told, every moment I had blindly trusted her. I kept looking at the recordings I'd made, listening to her voice deny everything, and it made me sick. The worst part was realizing how much I'd let myself be blind, how often I brushed off the small signs, the little disagreements, the excuses she threw my way. I'd always believed I was a good husband, but somehow I missed the biggest betrayal of all. By morning, I knew I had to figure out my next move. I wasn't about to let her manipulate her way out of this, not after everything. I wasn't going to be the fool who gets played for a fool. I decided I needed some space, time to think, to process, and to plan. I called a divorce lawyer first thing and scheduled a meeting. That was a hard call, but I knew I couldn't ignore this anymore. I had to get ahead of it to protect myself. And maybe in the end to find some closure. I also started packing a bag. Not because I was rushing to leave, but because I didn't want her to think I was just sitting here waiting for her to decide what to do. I told myself I'd give her a chance to come clean, but I wasn't naive enough to believe she'd do that voluntarily. I knew Lisa. She'd lie, deny, and blame me for everything. Still, I had to be prepared. I didn't want to be caught off guard if she decided to spin some new story. That evening she came home again, acting as if nothing had changed. She threw that bitchy smirk on her face and started in on me about how I was crazy for suspecting her. I just looked at her and didn't say a word. Instead, I pulled out the recorder and played her some of the clips. Her face went white, then red with rage. She started yelling, calling me a stalker, a paranoid freak, and then she went into full-on denial. She told me I was ruining everything, that I was crazy to believe some stupid chats. I stood my ground. "Lisa, I have everything recorded. Your lies, your excuses, your plans with Mike. Don't bother trying to deny it anymore. I'm done. I want a divorce and I want it now." That set her off completely. She started screaming, calling me all sorts of names, hurling accusations of my own, trying to turn the tables. She said I was insecure, jealous, and that I'd never truly loved her. I just looked at her and thought, wow, this is who she really is. The thing that struck me most was her sheer audacity. She was so confident, so dismissive, like she thought she could keep hiding her lies forever. But I'd had enough. I told her I wasn't going to argue anymore. I was done pretending, done playing her game. I told her that I'd be leaving soon, that I wanted her out of my life, and that I'd be taking all necessary steps to protect myself, financially, legally, emotionally. I walked out of that house feeling like I'd just shed a huge weight I'd been carrying around for years. I stayed in a friend's place that night. I didn't want to be alone with her anymore. The truth was, I felt empty, like all the trust I had was drained out of me. I kept thinking about everything I'd lost, everything I'd hoped for that was now gone. I didn't sleep much that night either, just lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd gotten here, how I'd let her manipulate me for so long. But one thing was clear: I was done being a fool. From now on, I was going to take care of myself. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house with her anymore. That woman had destroyed what was left of my faith in her, and in us. The days that followed felt like a blur of legal calls, packing, and trying to keep my head together. I steeled myself to go through the divorce process, knowing Lisa would fight dirty, try to spin stories, and deny everything, just like she always did. I kept reminding myself I had the recordings, the evidence, and that I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. But underneath all that, I was torn apart. I kept asking myself where I went wrong, how I missed all the signs, and I put up with her bullshit for so long. She tried calling me, of course. At first she begged, crying, claiming she was sorry and that it was just a mistake. Her voice sounded fake and desperate, like she was trying to guilt me into staying, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her to leave me alone, that I'd seen enough. She threw a fit, calling me heartless, jealous, and paranoid, then accused me of ruining her life and trying to control her. Honestly, at that point, I didn't care. I knew she'd try to manipulate her way back into my good graces, but I was done. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after everything I'd found out. I moved into a small apartment just a few blocks from my house. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give me space to breathe. I started seeing a counselor, mostly because I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd lost something irreplaceable: my marriage, my trust, my sense of security. The counselor helped a lot, and I slowly began to piece myself back together. I realized I'd been so caught up in her lies that I'd lost sight of myself. That was the real wake-up call. Meanwhile, Lisa was making her own mess. She kept denying everything, blaming me for trust issues, and insisting she was a victim of my paranoia. She refused to move out, kept trying to storm through my new place, and even threatened to take me to court over custody of our dog, which was just her way of trying to hurt me. It was like she was desperately clinging to her lies, refusing to face the reality she created. But I had enough. I had documented everything, and I was prepared to fight for my peace. One day, I sat down with my lawyer and started drafting the divorce papers. I knew it was going to be messy, but I also knew I had to do it, needed to cut the cord for good. I decided I wasn't going to try to salvage what was broken. I'd wasted enough years on someone who didn't value me. The betrayal cut deep, and I didn't want to live in a house where every corner reminded me of her lies. It was time to move on, even if it hurt like hell. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. I also learned that people often hide who they really are behind a veneer of charm, and sometimes you don't see the cracks until it's too late. I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I guess everyone's timeline is different. I just hope that anyone reading this will take their intuition seriously. If something feels off, don't ignore it. You deserve honesty, respect, and someone who values you, not someone who cheats behind your back and then gaslights you. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'll be okay. I'll rebuild. I'll find happiness again. And I'll never let anyone treat me like that ever again. The whole experience has left a scar, no doubt about it. Some days I wake up feeling hollow, like I'm still trying to catch my breath after a long fall. But other days, I remind myself that I'm stronger than I thought. I've learned a painful lesson about trust and about the importance of paying attention to the small signs before they blow up in your face. I wish I could say I'm glad it happened, but honestly, I'm just relieved it's over. Seeing her face, hearing her lies, realizing I was a fool for so long, it all hurts. But in a strange way, it's made me sharper. I've become more cautious, more aware of what I deserve. I won't settle for less anymore. I've seen what betrayal looks like, and I refuse to let anyone make me feel like I'm not worth honesty. I've also learned that revenge isn't always about hurting someone else. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your own peace, your dignity, your self-worth. Looking back, I know I was naive for a long time. I thought love was enough, that if I was good enough, she'd stay loyal. But love isn't just about giving, it's also about receiving respect. And when that respect is gone, everything else crumbles. I wish her well, really I do. She's made her choices, and that's on her. But I won't be the one to keep paying for her mistakes. So I've decided to close this chapter and focus on myself. I've started therapy, I'm reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and I'm slowly rebuilding my life from the ground up. It's not easy, and sometimes I still get angry, sad, or confused. But I keep reminding myself that I'm better off without her. I deserve honesty, loyalty, and someone who respects me enough to be faithful. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. Don't ignore the signs. Don't let yourself be blind to the betrayal, no matter how much you love someone or how much you hope they'll change. Trust your instincts and don't be afraid to face the harsh truths. You're worth more than the pain of betrayal, and someday you'll find happiness again on your own terms. I have, and I know I'll keep moving forward.